options, drawing lots of cards, getting a Vileplume down as soon as possible, locking your opponent out, and getting some Decidueye as well so that you can start flinging feather arrows.
So big card off the trainer's mail finds that all-important Forest of Giant Plants right away. The Stadium card is what makes this deck go. It allows you to evolve all of your Grass-type Pokemon immediately. You don't have to wait a turn to evolve your Grass-type Pokemon anymore. So the idea is you get that Stadium card out, evolve into Gloom, then into Vileplume, get that irritating Pollen ability, prevent both players from using item cards, potentially locking your opponent down before they even get a chance to play their first turn.
So right up the bat, we see the supporter card N being played on John's side. Both players shuffling their decks, drawing a card for each prize remaining, so both players are going to get 6. Over on Kettler's side, I see some Pokemon and an Energy. Big thing he's going to be looking for is cards like Ultra Ball or Shaman to continue to draw. He played his first supporter card pretty early. Normally you want to get sort of an explosive start with this kind of deck, and he already seems to be halted a little bit.
Yeah, not an explosive first turn. Usually from the Decidueye Vileplume deck, we see multiple Stage 2 Pokemon coming into play right away. You get Decidueye GX, you get Vileplume out. That's typically what you're aiming for, but John only gets a Rowlet down with a Grass Energy. Not a great start, but I think it's okay because Wesley's deck is a little slow. It's a big Stage 2 deck that wants to build up big Pokemon GX, and it takes a few turns to do that. It's not some kind of turbo deck where you're burning through a bunch of item cards on the first turn. It would have disrupted him to not be able to play this Ultra Ball, for example, but I think in the grand scheme of things, John is fine with his first turn as long as he can follow it up with a strong second turn.
And here we see a classic play that a lot of players have been using since Tapu Lele GX has dropped. Tapu Lele GX, able to search for a supporter card from your deck. And Bridget is a fantastic turn one supporter to grab, especially in these evolution-based decks.
Yeah, Bridget is a card we've been seeing much more of with the release of Tapu Lele GX. It was tough to play for a while. A lot of decks revolved exclusively around Pokemon EX, and that made it difficult to use Bridget, and it was difficult to find on the first turn. But now with Tapu Lele GX's Wonder Tag ability, you can just search for Bridget, and it can get Pokemon GX with its ability. So it's just a card that its stock has risen tremendously since the release of Guardians Rising, and you can see why right here. Multiple basic Pokemon on the bench, and he can follow it up with a Beacon from Alolan Vulpix.
Alolan Vulpix, the Alolan Pokemon have this interesting ability where they have 0 energy attacks that they can use. Beacon being one of them, arguably the strongest 0 energy attack in the game. This lowly Vulpix, not even a Ninetales being run in this deck, has a 0 energy attack that allows you to search your deck for 2 Pokemon. That is huge, not only just for having a consistent setup for a deck that needs these evolutions, that needs more Beldum and Metang and then finally Metagross, but you're trying to fight through what is probably going to be an item lock coming on your opponent's side, which is sort of why we saw Wesley playing cards like his Rescue Stretcher and his Versus Seeker on his turn. Here, searching for 2 Pokemon, if you can do that more than one turn, that's fantastic, but even having the one should help him start setting up. Back over on Kettler's side, it's time to go turbo.
He's going to be hoping to. It looks like nothing off that trainer's mail. But John cannot be feeling good about this position. His opponent, although it doesn't look intimidating, as the Alolan Vulpix was able to search for Metang, and he knows there's another one in Wesley's hand because he used Rescue Stretcher for it. Wes's deck is well equipped to battle the item lock from Vileplume. Lots of Stage 1 Pokemon, 3 Metang in his deck, and lots of supporter cards. Sure, there are plenty of item cards like there are in any strategy, but he has the Alolan Vulpix to search for Pokemon. He will not be very hindered by not being able to play item cards, and this is the kind of strategy you don't like to see when you're playing this Decidueye Vileplume deck. And once your opponent gets set up, they have a 250 HP monster, which Decidueye GX does not do very well against.
And speaking of which, it's already out on the field, that Forest of Giant Plants, allowing Kettler to evolve Pokemon even the turn that they go down, and this is the kind of hand that this deck is known for. You get a ton of evolutions out all in one turn, cap it up with an Ultra Ball, which allows you to bring your hand size down to a lower amount. Grab a card like Shaman that allows you to draw more cards. He could even, if he truly wanted to, I don't think he wants to yet, get a Vileplume down. He has a lot of different options, though, at his disposal. But I think Shaman, just filling up the hand full of more cards is big. And Kettler, being one of the few players that I know that utilizes notes when playing through the game, likes to look through his deck and guarantee what's prized, make sure that he knows what he will be able to and not be able to find at any given point from deck searches.
Yeah, we're certainly going to see Shaman EX from this Ultra Ball, unless he has one in hand already. We're using that setup ability to draw more cards, continue his turn, get more evolutions out, and probably hoping to get a float stone onto his Gloom so he can retreat, and then get Vileplume out to shut down item cards. Typically, you don't want to get Vileplume out until you have a few Decidueye GX in play, because turning off item cards hurts you as well. This deck plays a ton of them, with Ultra Ball, Level Ball, all sorts of item cards that you need to find your Pokemon. So we'll certainly see one Shaman EX set up here, potentially another one after he fills his hand up once again, and he's going to be looking to get a full board after this, and ideally retreat and use Razor Leaf to knock out that Alolan Vulpix before he can do more damage.
It really is crazy to see that Shaman EX, a card that was considered to be the best in the format, you must have several copies, is sort of falling out of many decks. That said, in Kettler's deck, you want to be able to draw cards, and it's still very prevalent here. Looks like he got the Float Stone, so he can at least retreat. But did he get the Vileplume too?
No. Okay.
Yeah, that will be the big question.
I think I see Ultra Ball.
And then the other question is, will he want to get Vileplume yet? Typically, you want a couple of Decidueye GX out there, but maybe he prioritizes shutting down Wes's item cards. He does know there are at least 2 Metang in Wes's hand. He doesn't know if there's, perhaps Rare Candy and Metagross GX ready to go on the next turn. But I have to assume we'll see probably another Shaman EX coming here, set up for more cards. John always loves to do that. Get as many options as he can, but no, going right for the Vileplume.
Yeah, even opting to discard a Rowlet is one of his targets from the Ultra Ball. I don't know. Well, if he did have a Revitalizer, the chance to use that is now gone. Irritating Pollen is in play. It is, true to its name, one of the most irritating cards in the format.
Yep.
No item cards can be played from either player now that this Vileplume is down. And the Float Stone is also something that you really want to see with Vileplume. I see a lot of players miss it, and then they can get pulled up by Lysander. But instead, free to retreat to the bench, and there's a knockout with Razor Leaf on Kettler's side for the first prize of the game.
Yeah, John being very aggressive in this matchup, opting to knock out Alolan Vulpix right there, get the Vileplume into play, and just hoping that Wes doesn't set up. I think it's a smart plan. The Metagross GX deck, once it completely sets up, it will overpower Decidueye GX. It has too much HP. It can function without item cards. It can just do so much. And I think John is correct to try to attack Wes before he is completely set up. You can't be too patient against this kind of strategy. And so far, Wesley doing exactly what he needs to do, setting up his Metang, slowly evolving into a stage 2, but will John be able to perhaps find a Lysander or the first sighting of
your boy
Guzma, and he will target down that Metang before it can evolve.
So I don't think we'll really get to see Guzma's effect here, but it is a Lysander, can pull up a Pokemon on your opponent's side, and it also gives you a switch effect, a mandatory switch effect. Here, we'll likely see him just switch to the Vileplume and then retreat for free, but that's going to pull up the Metang, which we've noted is a really big thing for Wes's side. He needs to get a Metagross out, ideally multiple as soon as possible. So Kettler playing, like you said, a sort of rare aggressor role where he's trying to get knockouts as quickly as possible as opposed to slowly spreading them over on his opponent's side. He sees the threat and knows how scary it is if you can allow your opponent to sort of evolve all the way up. So there's a Feather Arrow on the bench for 2 more damage counters and a knockout with Razor Leaf in the active.
And we'll see just how far this one Decidueye GX can go. Looks like Wes did draw a Metagross GX for the turn, so now a 250 HP Pokemon is out there. But we'll see what he can do to get set up. He's cut off on item cards. He's lost 1 Metang. Can he actually get multiple Metagross GX into play? If not, it actually gets a little awkward.
It looks like he's actually just opting to Lysander up the Shaman, which indicates to me that he's trying to stall for another turn if possible.
Oh, he's going for the big GX attack.
Yep.
Here we go.
Here we go.
The Algorithm.
Algorithm is one of the craziest attacks in this game. Search your deck for 5 cards, not 5 of a kind, just 5 anything. truly is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen printed on a card. But your GX attack is the only one that you get. You can only do one in an entire game. So there we see the GX is flipped. And curious to see what he grabs from it.
Yeah, he does play one Hex Maniac, so he's certainly going for that. He wants to play Hex Maniac, then he can rare candy into his benched Metagross GX, evolving the Beldum on the bench. Get another stage 2 into play, then maybe something like Max Potion to heal off his Pokemon. He just wants to set himself up for future turns.
Yeah, it looks like he went for that exact combo. Hex Maniac sort of buys you a turn of items, so if you can combine it with a bunch of items in your hand, that's great. A big thing we'll have to see on Kettler's side is whether or not he can respond with an N. N is the worst thing to see after you drop an algorithm.
Yeah, John certainly needs to find N here. You can't just let your opponent search for any 5 cards. That spells disaster for you. But we'll see if he has one.
No, just a Sycamore. So that algorithm is going to hold over on Wes's side. He does have the energy to retreat and start attacking and applying pressure. But I don't think he has any way to knock out this massive 250 HP Metagross. And with the Hex Maniac and all those items, if Kettler ends up trying to put as much damage on it as possible, it could just get all wiped away from a Max Potion.
Yeah, Max Potion is a little awkward in this situation, though. In order to play Max Potion, you have to play Hex Maniac first, and then you can heal the damage, but then you don't get to use Geotech System. So you can't really do the whole combo you want to, which is you want to heal your Pokemon completely, you discard the energy, then use Metagross's Geotech System ability, get the energy back, and charge up for another attack. When you play Hex Maniac first, then you can't recharge Metagross GX, so it almost doesn't get you anywhere.
It looks like Kettler deciding to spread the damage around, get 4 damage counters on top of Lele GX on the bench. That can be an easy 2-prize knockout later, but there we see a Razor Leaf to the active.
Now, that being said, I think Wes certainly does want to play Hex Maniac here, just so he can rare candy into his benched Metagross GX. That'll be a big play. Get another big stage 2 out, and then go from there.
So he will have one Geotech System that he can apply before he does that. I assume maybe he just wants to start piling up on the next Metagross GX. Once you finally have one fully powered, you're in a pretty good spot. But this is sort of a tough situation to deal with. You've already taken a couple of knockouts on your side. Pressure's going to start coming every single turn through 4 damage counters being dropped from Feather Arrows.
Oh,
well, Hex right now?
Yeah, he did it before the Geotech System. Looks like he wants to Max Potion this turn and heal that damage off. And rare candy onto the benched Beldum, and perhaps even Versus Seeker to get back the Hex Maniac on the following turn. You can even play it on a Choice Band, a couple of them. And, you know, if you have Versus Seeker, you might even consider grabbing, like, Lysander or Guzma if it's in your discard pile, so that you can simply knock out Vileplume next turn and gain access to item cards once again. Wes opting to go with the Hex Maniac. It is very effective as well, shutting down one of the big sources of damage for the Decidueye player, that Feather Arrow ability.
Yeah, so no feathers for a turn. Kettler's really, you only max out at 90 damage a turn when your Feather Arrows are out. Would have liked to see one more energy attached on Wesley's side. I think he could have been able to do that. I think he has a discarded energy that meets Geotech Systems types.
Yeah, he would have, but then he would have discarded it with Max Potion anyway.
Oh, sure. I guess in general, you can't get everything that you want when you're combining those cards.
Yeah, he could have taken a risk and just simply gone for an attack that turn. The problem would have been if John had a single energy, he could have finished off the Metagross GX with Tapu Lele GX's energy drive attack, and that's probably not a risk Wesley wanted to take.
Yeah, he clearly did, slapping down the double colorless energy. On Kettler's side, he won't be able to apply a ton of pressure. Here we see Skyla on his end, able to grab another trainer from his deck.
And John taking full advantage of Wes's Hex Maniac. That shuts down abilities for, both players, and that means John can now play his item cards because his Vileplume is turned off by Hex Maniac. So he's playing as many item cards as he can, getting them out of his hand because he knows they'll be useless after a while. So he's doing whatever he can to further his board position. He's already got 2 Decidueye GX in play, could potentially get a third one out, trying to figure out which trainer card to grab with this Skyla.
Looks like he's just opting to grab a Professor Sycamore. Way to dig even deeper if need be in this next turn.
And Skyla is an interesting inclusion. That's not a card we've seen in John's deck in the past. Perhaps the format has slowed down enough where he's saying, maybe I can use my supporter for the turn to search for a specific card, to search for something like Forest of Giant Plants. He's actually cut down on his number of Trainer's Mail in his deck in order to play more supporter cards. And maybe we're just in a place where that's a better idea than trying to burn through your deck quickly with item cards.
So we see another Rowlet evolving immediately into Dartrix, just with the power of Force Giant Plants. I don't think Wesley runs any kind of Stadium card to even replace that, so once it's down and you have Vileplume, it's stuck for the game.
Sure, he does play Field Blower, so you can always blow away the Stadium, but you cannot against Vileplume's Irritating Pollen.
Back over on Wesley's side, should finally be able to apply an attack here, so we start seeing Geotech systems in play, being able to attach energy straight from the discard pile.
And we do see that already. Looks like he'll have another Hex Maniac to follow up here, but he's gonna be in that awkward situation next turn where he's got a Max Potion in hand, but he won't be able to play it, and he can't really do it this turn. Giga Hammer, though, gonna soften up that Decidueye GX, and we'll see what John does from here.
So there we see, if he can hold on, which I assume he'll be able to with Hex Maniac.
Uh-oh, Acerola.
Oh boy, picking it up completely. This is a new Burning Shadows card. It's so powerful. As long as you have damage counters in one of your Pokemon, you can pick it all up. Not just the Pokemon like we've seen with cards like AZ, but the Pokemon and everything attached to it. So you get those energy back too.
Yeah, I was wondering if we would see this card show up in Decidueye GX decks with Forest of Giant Plants. You can just replay your entire Stage 2 line down. It's almost like he just played a Max Potion, but it was a supporter card, not an item card.
So here we see, I assume, he was able to pick up the Hex Maniac once again, right? Or was he not able to on his last turn?
Oh yeah, Wes played Hex Maniac on his last turn, yeah.
A big retreat. Normally you don't want to retreat for 3 energy, but if you're gonna end up playing a Max Potion anyways, that's one thing to do. So you can retreat. Here comes 2 more Geotech systems salvaging some of that energy, this time on top of Lele. And there we go on a Sycamore.
Yeah, this is still an awkward situation for Wes. He's behind on prizes. You know, he's got his board set up, but it's not a perfect spot to be in. John has a lot of energy in play. He has a lot of Stage 2s in play. Now he can use his Feather Arrow abilities. The Max Potion is turned off for Wesley. He cannot play them because of Vileplume's Irritating Pollen. And it might just be a matter of time until John whittles away with these Feather Arrows and Razor Leaf attacks. We'll see what he does here, though. His active is in danger. I mean, he could Razor Leaf, hit for 90 damage, but then it's almost surely being knocked out on the next turn. Perhaps he might favor retreating, attacking with his own Tapu Lele GX, or even using that Hollow Hunt GX with his bench Decidueye GX.
Looks like he's opting to play probably the safer strategy, retreating. Sure, you lose a double colorless energy, but he's in sort of a safe position to do this. It's funny because the Metagross deck is usually the one that denies prizes, but John playing a pretty conservative play style of his own, just trying to make sure that his opponent can't take any prize cards.
Yeah, so 2 Feather Arrows go straight to the Metagross GX, and we see the other GX attack, Hollow Hunt, and we'll see which 3 cards he'll be taking here.
Another powerful GX attack, maybe not quite as strong as Algorithm, but still really important, allowing you to get 3 cards from your discard pile back into your hand. This is great for recycling things like we see here, like the Guzma, like the double colorless energy, to come back into play.
So just waiting on the 3rd choice for John, double colorless energy. Probably one of the most frequent choices with Hollow Hunt GX and 2 new supporter cards, Guzma and Acerola. Both have been used to great effect in this match so far. And,
Ace Trainer, putting it away.
That is a card we don't see a ton of. It is a powerful card, I think, but typically only good in slower decks. You play this Ace Trainer, you can only play it if you are losing the game, only if your opponent has fewer prize cards than you. And then you both shuffle your hands in your deck. The player who used it draws 6 cards. The opponent only gets to draw 3 cards. So that's actually a massive hit for John. Those 3 cards he got from the Hollow Hunt GX now shuffled back into his deck, and he only gets to draw 3.
Yeah, if you're on Wesley's side, you definitely hope that you can prevent your opponent from re-getting Acerola, re-getting Guzma, things that were either going to deny prizes you're taking or instantly knock out Pokemon that you had that were in trouble. Bring essentially end down to 3. It's not an N, but it's one of those situations where your hand size is very low. Can be really tough.
Yeah, and especially John's deck is still full of item cards. So he's got a lot of cards he just doesn't want that he could draw. Things like Ultra Ball, things like Level Ball, Float Stone, Field Blower. All of those cards are just worthless because he can't play item cards. So great play by Wes, disrupting John in this situation. And we'll see how he wants to follow up this turn. And looks like just another energy drive, this time for 90 damage.
Yeah, can slowly piece away the knockouts. It's certainly not as strong, though, when Kettler does not have a Decidueye that's ready to attack with Razor Leaf.
Yeah, the Feather Arrow will take down Wes's Metagross GX. Now John is down to just 2 prize cards, so if he knocks out one more Pokemon GX, he'll take down the first game.
Oh, wow, and it looks like he was able to get the Acerola back off of that hand shuffle. So you could do that to deny prizes. Looks like that's where we're going.
Indeed.
Up it goes.
This new card from the Burning Shadows expansion paying dividends already, healing tons and tons of damage just in the 2 times it was being played. I got a feeling that's a card we're going to see quite a bit of this weekend.
Absolutely. As the metagame is sort of shifting toward these Pokemon GX that have well over 200 hit points, being able to pick up that and denying a prize completely is going to be huge for cards like Decidueye, like Gardevoir GX.
Yeah, the game has certainly shifted towards these big Stage 2 Pokemon with lots of HP. They might be slower than those Pokemon EX that we're used to, the basic Pokemon that are so powerful, but they have so much HP, they allow you to come back later in the game once you finally set up. And things like Acerola will only make that more true as you can take some damage, heal it off, and send up another big Stage 2 Pokemon. We have seen strategies like this be very successful in the past. If you can't get one-hit knockouts on these giant Pokemon with such large HP, you eventually get whittled down by slowly healing your Pokemon and attacking your opponent.
So the only thing I think Kettler doesn't have is the way to attack with a Razor Leaf this turn, but I think you're okay sort of just biding your time, activating Feather Arrow as much as possible. You can't Hollow Hunt again, but the Decidueye GX is certainly a large wall that you can throw up just on its own to absorb a hit.
Yeah, I think John is trying to figure out what to do here. If he wants to attack with his Tapu Lele GX, attack for 80 damage with Energy Drive, which would set it up for a Razor Leaf later, or just a bunch of Feather Arrows, or exactly what he did, leave his Vileplume active. It'll get knocked out, and that will give Wesley access to his item cards again, but it also gives John his item cards back. And it also only gives up 1 prize card. At this stage of the game, John doesn't really need Vileplume's irritating pollen. It can hurt him more than it can help him. So letting it get knocked out can give him access to more options, and this is the sign of a true master of this deck. He is the creator of this deck. He knows the ins and outs. He knows when it's time to give up on Vileplume, when it's time to not even get it anymore, when it's time to be aggressive. He has seen it all, and you can see it right here.
So on Wes's side, we see the N, giving him still 6 cards. Has not taken a single prize card yet this game because of the Acerola, but looks like he did an Energy Drive retreat.
Can I look at your discard?
There in the active. Metagross GX, a fresh one up. Can knock out this Vileplume and take that first prize, but it might open up some trouble for him on Kettler's side if he was able to draw one of his many item cards off of those 2.
Yeah, and we'll see if John perhaps, if he drew Double Colorless Energy and Guzma, it would be game over. He could target down that Tapu Lele GX with the damage on it already and win the game right here. As it stands, Wesley is in an awkward position. I mean, he's down a lot of prize cards. He used Giga Hammer, but the drawback on Giga Hammer is you can't use it next turn. Normally you get around that by your retreat. You have multiple Metagross GX in play. You use all their abilities. You get the energy back. You power up a new one. You Giga Hammer again. But when you only have one Metagross GX in play, you're stuck in that awkward spot where you can't actually attack on the following turn. So I don't know how he's actually going to string together enough attacks to get knockouts before the game ends.
So there we see all the feather arrows and damage. Kettler just deciding, you know what, I'll throw all this in the Metagross. That's really the only major attacking threat that I see in the near future. And back over on West's side, I feel like there's just so much he would have to do to remain competitive in this one. He's really been beaten down.
Sure, that being said, he does have access to item cards again, so he could Rare Candy into his bench. Rare Candy his bench Beldum into Metagross GX, get multiple in play again. It looks like that's what he's going for.
Here we go, Ultra Ball. Rare Candy is in hand.
He has access to Max Potion once again. He can heal off his Pokemon. He can make this very difficult for John to get that final knockout. The only question is, can Wes actually take his own knockouts before John eventually gets that final one?
So here we see Rare Candy to a new Metagross. It looks like he actually has a Max Potion in hand. He had to discard one earlier off of a Sycamore just to desperately draw more. I think his last Max Potion is available to him as well.
Yeah, the problem is going to be, number one, he needs an energy card. He could retreat into his new Metagross GX, then use both Geotech system abilities, but then he needs an energy card from his hand to actually attack. And that doesn't get a knockout. So he also needs a choice band.
And he already has two attached on his field.
He could play Guzma.
Yo boy Guzma. Why
and
not?
Guzma has incredible synergy with a lot of different Pokemon, like Metagross GX. You have that big drawback of the Giga Hammer attack, where you can't use it in consecutive turns, but when you play Guzma, you can simply move it to the bench and then retreat it. In this situation, he's just going to set up the new Metagross GX and get a 2-prize knockout on that Decidueye GX, which will limit the damage output on John's side.
That was huge. I think he emptied his hand completely in doing that too. He had the Ultra Ball, the Rare Candy, the Max Potion, and the Guzma, all working in combination to give him the energy that he needs to heal the damage that's on his board and grab a knockout right there.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting finish. It's still anybody's game. John took the early lead by far, but at this point, he has run out of steam almost completely. Can he possibly get a knockout here to finish off the game? You know, there's that one Tapu Lele GX on the bench that is begging to be targeted by Guzma or Lysander and then knocked out with perhaps a Razor Leaf from Decidueye GX. But he just can't seem to find the cards to do it.
I wonder if allowing Wes to get his item cards back ended up being a mistake here. It certainly feels like it when your opponent plays like the perfect dream combo out of their hand, undoing a lot of your work. And here we see just a retreat and I think a Sky Return on Shaman's side.
Yeah, it sure looks like it. We'll see Feather Arrow, I'm going to guess, onto the Tapu Lele GX with the damage on it already. That way he can set up that Razor Leaf play for the win. But yeah, Sky Return, just 30 damage, but it will give him the option to set up for additional cards on his next turn.
So back on Wesley's side, depending on what he was able to grab off of his prize cards, we'll see what he's able to work with. He does have this nice thing where he can retreat to the Metagross that already has the choice band if you need to knock out something like a Tapu Lele. The question is, what supporters does he have to work with? I see N in his hand.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that definitely works. He's still getting 3 cards off of it.
Yeah, so excellent play from both sides here. In our first round at the World Championships, you wouldn't expect anything less from 2 world-class competitors. Had to qualify their way into this tournament. It's an invitation-only event where you have to earn your spot by placing well in tournaments throughout the entire season. It is no easy feat to qualify for this event. Lots of hours of practice and preparation, and even just hours traveling to events, playing in tournaments for the big payoff to be here in the World Championships. So it's no surprise to see excellent play from both sides.
Here we see a Field Blower, getting rid of Forest of Giant Plants. Not sure it'll be relevant anymore, but he did finally have the opportunity to drop one of them. I don't know if he got anything great off of the other 2 cards. Doesn't seem like he's playing them right away. I'm mostly curious to see what Kettler has on his end. He did lose his double colorless energy that he brought back to his hand from Sky Return.
Yeah, and the Shaman EX, perhaps even more important. But since Metagross GX used Giga Hammer on the previous turn, it will have to retreat since it cannot attack in consecutive turns. I'm curious how many energy Wes will commit to this active Tapu Lele GX. It can put it in danger against John's Tapu Lele GX, the Energy Drive attack. Looks like just 1 is going to be the answer.
All right, and so there we see 110 damage added. Another Decidueye coming down right away on Kettler's end. So he has 2 Feather Arrows. He can really start applying pressure.
Does he find anything like Shaman EX or Tapu Lele GX or a supporter card, though? He's going to need something, otherwise this other Decidueye GX will get knocked out, and then Wes is down to 1 prize card, and this could be a full comeback here.
And I feel like at any point, I feel like if a player has the win, they sort of just play it immediately, or if they have an out to it. When you get to these slower situations, you have to wonder, like, what do they have left to work with?
Well, the awkward thing now is, so John only has Guzma in his deck. He's opting not to play Lysander anymore. So if he had Guzma in this situation, it actually wouldn't be a win, right? He would have to switch his own Pokemon to the bench, and say he had Double Colorless and Guzma, he wouldn't be able to actually get the knockout here. And that's one of the drawbacks of that new supporter card, where if it were just Lysander, you could play it and then Double Colorless and knock out Tapu Lele GX for the win. That's where that other effect from Guzma can sometimes be a drawback.
And it looks like Kettler ended up throwing his Feather Arrows onto the Vulpix.
I think we saw earlier, if we can get a look at his prize cam once again, 1 Professor Sycamore was in his prize cards. And there we can see Wesley taking 2 more prizes. But on John's side, I think there's 1 Professor Sycamore in his prize cards, and he's just trying to grab it. Yeah, there it is.
Wow. Let's see, he's going to have a 50-50 shot at this when throwing a Feather Arrow to knock out the Vulpix. And Wesley has certainly hit a hot streak. He's been able to get big knockouts just with Tapu Lele. It's compatible with the any energy type, so why not just drive it up?
Indeed. But at this point, I got to wonder, what can John even do? And what prize card does he get? He got the Professor Sycamore off of his 1 prize card. Can he string together an important turn here and somehow claw for that last prize card?
Yeah, if he can find things like Revitalizers, he could perhaps get more Decidueye GX back into play. He has no energy right now, so it's going to be a sort of slower climb up to attack.
Yeah, and he has to worry that Wes has his own Guzma or Lysander. So this is an awkward spot where, you play Tapu Lele GX, perhaps wanting to grab an N to disrupt your opponent, but you would only get 1 card off of it. That's not a good spot for you to be in. So I have to think he's looking for something like Field Blower if he hasn't used it yet. And get rid of those choice bands on the Tapu Lele GX and the Metagross GX to prevent Wes from being able to get a crucial knockout on the following turn. Otherwise, I think John, he just might be in too rough of a spot here. I don't see what kind of attack he can even string together to get a knockout here. I think it would take attaching to a bench Tapu Lele GX, taking a hit in the active spot, and the next turn playing Guzma, targeting the damaged Tapu Lele GX on the bench and getting the knockout there.
Yeah, did you see which supporter card he was able to grab off of the Wonder Tag?
I don't even think he took one.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just opting to go straight in for the Sycamore. So the game could be over right now if his opponent has something like a Guzma.
Indeed. And he opted to bench the Oddish there. That could just give an easy target for Wes. That makes me think that Field Blower is already in the discard pile. And John is trying to get Vileplume to perhaps get rid of the Versus Seeker option for his opponent. That's certainly something that could come up as well.
Yeah, at this point, items have been in play for a while now, and Wesley's been using a lot of them. Definitely making the most of his Vileplume-free lifestyle.
And at this point, you have to take a look at the clock. I mean, this is a best-of-3 match, but this single game has taken up most of the timer, and that makes me think this one game is almost certainly going to decide the match. The next 1 or 2 games probably won't finish. And so this is it. You have to win this game, otherwise you're in some trouble.
Yeah, this often happens in slow matchups like this, where you have one colossal game taking an incredible amount of time. And there we see the Ultra Ball. Looks like he's eyeing up the Vileplume. Figures desperation, irritating Pollen, dropping back down, saving himself from a Versus Seeker loss.
Yeah, I would think he would grab Shaman EX here. You are very likely to draw into Vileplume, and you already have enough targets on your bench where adding a weak Shaman EX to it doesn't really matter. If your opponent has Lysander or Guzma, you've lost anyway. So why not try to draw some more cards? And wow, looks like John actually concedes.
Wow. I'm not sure if he just saw the writing of the wall in his deck or feels like he could maybe win a very quick game to salvage with the draw. I didn't think it was completely over for him, but it definitely wasn't in his favor.
And there certainly could have been a conversation at the table where his opponent was like, hey, I have Lysander. Go, okay, well, no need to waste time then.
Yeah, we weren't able to see what was in Wesley's hand, unfortunately. But great way to play back. He certainly kept his resources for the perfect time. I think the pivotal moment was just Kettler opting to sacrifice his Vileplume, gave Wesley this amazing turn where he really just completely shook the table, and Kettler, slowly after cards like Ace Trainer, after some ends, wasn't able to reclaim the resources that he desperately needed, like energies.
Yeah, I think the very, very big turn was when John used Hollow Hunt GX, got back 3 cards, and Wesley responded with the Ace Trainer and forced him to shuffle those cards back in and only gave him 3 cards. After that turn, John just drew almost nothing the entire rest of the game. He was so far ahead, he only needed like a double colorless energy and Guzma in the next like 6 turns of the game, but he was just unable to string together anything. That one Ace Trainer completely disrupted him and threw off all of his plans, and that's got to be a frustrating game to lose.
Yeah, that is a brutal game 1. The worst kind is when you don't have time to play even a little bit of game 2. Here, I'm going to say a little over 10 minutes once the players have finally set up. You can certainly win a game in that time. You can sort of steal one very quickly if you shut your opponent down completely. We did see Kettler had a pretty disappointing turn 1 to start last time. Perhaps he'll be able to turn that around here with a very quick classic Vileplume shutdown. But otherwise, Wesley's put himself in a great situation here in this first game for the day 1 tournament.
Yep, so players setting up for game number 2. If you're watching at home, please use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Tell us who you think is going to win this game. Can John Kettler, the master of Decidueye Vileplume, make a comeback in game number 2? Or will Wesley, our player from the Midwest, be able to close out round number 1 and take down probably one of the favorites here in day number 1 on his first match of the day, getting himself towards perhaps making day 2 at Worlds?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people's favorites to win this tournament have qualified for day 2. Many of them have, but it's not often in day 1 you see players that made it all the way to the finals of the North American International Championships. But as we've said time and time again, there's always space for a new player to prove themselves, to make good plays, and to win at the World Championships.
Surprise cards there for Wesley. Nothing super important. A couple supporter cards. And nothing too relevant for John, although 2 Forest of Giant Plants can make it difficult to find it on the first turn. As we go into game number 2, we have Beldum versus that new Oddish from the Burning Shadows expansion, as we'll see here in a second. And John, his pace of play will certainly pick up here. I think he realizes there is not much time left.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have as much time as usual to do his classic figuring out what's prized, maybe only looking at the most important things. I think, like you mentioned, the 2 Force of Giant Plants can be a big deal because he also runs less Trainer's Mail to sort of sift them out of the deck as well.
Yeah, and we do see just a Beldum for Wesley. It's not likely, but I have been on the receiving end of a turn 1 triple Decidueye GX. 3 Feather Arrows could knock out Beldum on the first turn if we see all of the necessary cards. We'll see if that happens here.
So here we see an Acerola being picked up off the Wonder Tag. I wonder if that's just Kettler grabbing a card that he thinks he can throw away with a Sycamore or similar card.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. He understands there's not enough time in the round to actually use that card effectively. So he's grabbing it out of his deck so he can play Professor Sycamore and not draw it later. This is a very aware play. John actually powering up his Tapu Lele GX as well, understanding that to win, he has to be as aggressive as possible and win the game very, very quickly.
So we see, there's a Trainer's Mail. Will it pull up the Forest of Giant Plants?
Indeed.
It does.
Wow, even with 2 in the prize cards, he finds it. And will this be the start of a big turn? I think he wants to get Vileplume into play right now. I think he figures his best chance to win is get Vileplume out, hope that Wes has a bad hand, has a bunch of item cards he can't play, and then rush down with that Tapu Lele GX and just knock out Beldum and move on to game 3.
So I do see he saw a Shaman in hand. I wonder if he may opt to just grab nothing just so that he can draw a few more cards from the Shaman. His hand looks like it's starting to run out of cards that he can quickly burn. And the other unfortunate thing, too, is that he has to play Shaman as well, is that he's just using up so much bench space, too.
Yeah, although I don't know if he even cares at this point. He probably figures the only way he can win is to knock out a couple of basic Pokemon before they can evolve and just hope his opponent doesn't have anything.
So grabbing a Lysander there. I don't know if he has other cards like Ultra Ball or other evolution pieces. Here we see another Floatstone down. I see Vileplume in his hand, but nothing else. And yeah, just a small setup.
Does he find what he needs off of that setup? Does he find a Gloom or a way to get it? No!
Oh, wow.
And looks like Wesley will have a turn to play his item cards.
And that's going to be big, probably giving him enough time to survive sort of the rest of this. Immediately I see Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball probably means Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele probably means Bridget. Bridget probably means that Kettler is out of time.
It certainly could be, but he will be putting on a pretty big amount of pressure with that Tapu Lele GX. He'll be able to knock out pretty much any basic on Wes's side, like a Beldum or a Alolan Vulpix. He can't knock out a Tapu Lele GX, but that's unlikely to be in the active spot after Wes's first turn is over. We're probably going to see, like you said, Wonder Tag, grab Bridget, grab 3 basic Pokemon, probably be 2 Beldum and a Alolan Vulpix, and it'll end with a Beacon for 2 Pokemon.
So there we see, is he like skipping a step here really quickly? I see the Bridget down.
Yeah, played
so there's the Lele, there's the Bridget. Okay.
So 3 basic Pokemon going onto the bench. If he has the energy to retreat, he will use Beacon, grab probably 2 Matang, and start this slow setup as we saw last game. And Forest of Giant Plants going bye-bye thanks to the Field Blower.
And we've already seen 2 Forest of Giant Plants in the prize cards. So there's only one possible one left in Kettler's deck even.
That is a massive Field Blower. Now John needs to find his final Forest of Giant Plants to even get Vileplume on his next turn. Otherwise, we could see things like Rare Candy, Metagross GX, more choice bands hitting the field. This is not a good spot for our runner-up at the North American International Championships. Perhaps getting off to a rough start here at the World Championships.
So we see the 2 Matang. So the longer that Kettler takes, the bigger these Pokemon are going to evolve, and the tougher it's going to be now. There's so many Pokemon in play. He's going all in. And a Sycamore just ditching everything, trying to play as quickly as possible, dealing as much damage as he can. He can do some evolutions the slow way, but if he isn't able to find Forest of Giant Plants, he's not going to be able to get the explosive setup that we're used to seeing.
And you can see there is Forest of Giant Plants still in his deck, so he was not able to draw it. Will he find Dartrix or Gloom? Looks like he's favoring the Vileplume in this matchup. It is very important to take away the max potion option for his opponent. That's certainly going to be a big barrier for him taking prize cards if his opponent can simply heal off all the damage.
And so
just the energy drive, knocking out a Alolan Vulpix. And we'll see if he can somehow stack enough energy onto that Tapu Lele GX to get some big knockouts early on.
Here come the Matangs. It looks like there's a Sycamore as well in Wesley's hands, so he's going to have a ton of options to run through while he's under yet another turn where he's able to use items.
Yeah, Wes probably wants to find Rare Candy and Metagross GX, and I think he's got it.
I see it. Ultra Ball, Rare Candy. That at least gets him his first Metagross down.
And that can lead right into the big Algorithm GX, and that is not what you want to see if you are John Kettler. Your opponent could search for 5 cards and put them right into his hand, and that could signal the end of our first round here at the World Championships. Kind of an upset, you might say, with Wes Hollenberg taking down the runner-up from the North American International Championships.
Absolutely. And that first game was so close. It came down to many little things, all stacking up in Wes's end in his favor to end the game. Here we see Ultra Ball, Metagross, Rare Candy Metagross, and like you said, an Algorithm can come up right now And even though that Tapu Lele has 2 double colorless energies on it, it's not knocking out a Metagross anytime soon. That's going to continue to buy West the time that he so desperately needs.
And there we do see it, Rare Candy. That's not a card we've seen for many years now. Stage 2 Pokemon were kind of in the shadows waiting to emerge again. And now they're back. We're seeing more Rare Candy than ever. And those Stage 2 Pokemon are back in full force.
It's kind of nostalgic, honestly, between Gardevoir. We're just seeing Stage 2 Pokemon are back. Rare Candy's back. There's still viable strategies with Stage 1 and basic Pokemon, but we have a nice balance right now.
Wesley opted to attack with Energy Drive, doing 120 damage to his opponent's active Tapu Lele GX. Perhaps just wanting to stop this aggression. Now, this would open up an opportunity for John to get a third double colorless energy, and then a Decidueye GX, and Energy Drive for a knockout after the Feather Arrow. And, he would go down to 3 prize cards. West doesn't have a lot of cards in his hand. That is certainly something that could give him a chance to win. Unless West gets a double Metagross GX out next turn, he wouldn't be able to knock out Tapu Lele GX. And I think you got to take risks here. So I think that's what we're going to see. We saw Skyla for the Revitalizer. Will we find Decidueye GX as well, and that third double colorless energy to get a knockout?
Yeah, I think at this point, you might as well try.
I do think we saw Forest of Giant Plants taken off of that prize on the previous turn. Is there a Decidueye GX to go with it, though?
I know the double colorless energy, I think, is there.
Okay,
so just opting to attach to the bench. So that dream is dead.
Yeah, it looks like he does not have Decidueye GX. Simply has to Energy Drive for 120 damage, and well, now we'll see how West wants to follow this up. He could simply Energy Drive for the knockout, take away John's big attacker, and then just power up Metagross GX on the bench. Get ready to have Giga Hammer going, or even just an Algorithm GX. And that looks like what he's going to do, but there's still only one Metagross GX to work with. John could still take this game.
Yeah, if he's able to grab a prize here, there's the double colorless energy, retreating back up to the active spot.
So Tapu Lele all the time.
Yeah, obviously not the core attacker for John's deck, but he can still use it anyway, down to 3 prize cards, why not? Just has to hope that his opponent does not have a way to get multiple Metagross in play. And this end signifies that you've got a decent shot at maybe your opponent whiffing.
Yeah, unfortunately, even if West doesn't find exactly what he needs, he can just use Algorithm GX, and then he'll certainly have what he needs. Searching for any 5 cards, putting them into his hand. You can only use 1 GX attack per game, but we are in a different game. So you can use that GX attack in game number 2. The GX marker gets flipped back over when a new game begins.
And I think at this point, too, just looking at the clock, I think Kettler is maybe running out of time. Here we see the Algorithm. Of course, if you're Kettler, it's like N or bust. If you don't have N, your opponent has everything they need.
Indeed. You see 3 cards taken very quickly for Wes. Hex Maniac versus Seeker, Max Potion, and probably we're going to see another Metagross GX taken as well. And he will be fully stocked and ready to go for the following turns if John cannot find that N to disrupt him.
Give him one final look. Getting any 5 cards, just trying to make sure I can get everything to make sure that I don't lose if I'm able to hold this hand for one more turn.
And looks like the selections have been made. 5 cards go into the hand, and now it'll be John's turn. But as you said, the clock is running down. We are under a minute at this point, and I just don't see a way for John to take 3 prize cards here. This would have to be a very fast turn. It needs to have an N as well. If not, he's going to be in massive amounts of trouble. We do see double colorless energy, Feather Arrow, and just the Energy Drive. Oof.
That's not going to be enough, because here come the Metagross.
Yeah, here comes Hex Maniac, here comes Max Potion, here comes all sorts of things that John does not want to see. We could even see simply double Geotech System, Hex Maniac into a Choice Band, just Giga Hammer for a knockout. That is an option as well.
just running your opponent out of all options. Time has now been called. So this is turn 0. We'll go until turn 3. And while Kettler does have a few more turns to work with, I just don't know if he can get 3 prize cards. It would be very tough.
So we are in the extra turns after time has been called. There are 3 additional turns. The player beginning is considered turn 0 before the extra turns begin. So Wes will be turn 0, and then John will be turn 1. Wes will be turn 2, and then John will have the final turn 3. John's a smart guy. I think he'll realize he just doesn't have enough turns here. But, I mean, this has been an excellently played matchup. John has just been on the losing end of this one, unable to get that Vileplume out on the first turn. Either game, barely losing game number 1 in a heartbreaking fashion. And now it is all Metagross GX for Wesley Hollenberg. 3 of them, 250 HP on each. And that choice band gives him a 2-prize knockout. And I don't know if John Kettler can do anything to come back from this.
And Wesley actually even setting himself up for a natural win. He can just grab all 6 prizes. That Shaman is certainly an easy target. Kettler, I don't even know if he has what it takes to knock out 1 Metagross GX. It's just so difficult. Just doing a hollow hunt. And Wesley's just like, hey, I have the Guzma. You don't even need to hunt, actually.
John's like, hey, let me
get my 3.
Let me get back my Vileplume.
Keller's the kind of guy that would do that. Just like, you know what? I did my hollow hunt.
I think he's going to hollow hunt for his 3 most useless cards here.
That seems like maybe what he had. The Gloom. You never know.
Gloom, Vileplume, and Skyla. And there we go. Handshake. And Wesley Hollenberg takes down John Kettler in round number 1 here at the 2017 Pokemon TCG World Championships.